You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Something known as car cloning, where criminals can take stolen VIN numbers and use it to create replica tags so that, you may get pulled over when you're driving your car in, Maryland, right? And the police are like, hey, we've got a warrant for this or whatever it is when you get pulled over. And it's actually because someone else who committed a crime who's duped your car's information has done it, somewhere else in the state.
Greetings to all, and a warm welcome to the Hacking Humans podcast, brought to you by the Cyberwire. Every week we delve into the world of social engineering scams, phishing plots, and criminal activities that are grabbing headlines and causing significant harm to organizations globally. I'm Dave Bittner, and joining me is Joe Carrigan from the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Dave.
We got some good stories to share this week, and later in the show, my conversation with Sam Crowther. He is founder and CEO of Casada. We're talking about some stolen automobile accounts. But first, a word from our sponsors at KnowBe4. Time travel would be a particularly powerful tool in the hands of any overworked InfoSec professional. Think about it. Being able to see the future and know which malicious emails would be missed by all the existing filters. Your ability to stay one step ahead of the bad actors would rise to a whole new level. Unfortunately, our sponsors haven't cracked time travel just yet. They are, however, introducing a new phishing protection product that can block and remove dangerous phishing emails before your users even see them. Stay with us, and in a few minutes, you'll learn how. All right, Joe, we got some follow-up here to start things off with. What do we got?
We do. Steve wrote in with an interesting story. He got an email that read, "Hello, Steve. I'm from Google, and you've been chosen to receive a gift package from Google for your work as part of the Google 3D community. Please provide address details so we can send you your gift." Now, Steve is paraphrasing because this came out, he got this email a long time ago. In fact, he was a volunteer for a beta program to use Google imagery to make 3D buildings for their platforms.
Okay.
So, when you zoom in on Google Maps,
right,
you can see 3D buildings. He was part of that.
Okay.
Of course, he thinks an email from Google, well, maybe.
Right.
But it turns out it was actually legit. He did provide mailing information that wasn't his home address, but he provided mailing information, and a couple of weeks later, he got a mug and some stickers and some other swag from Google as a thank you for contributing to it.
Okay. What's the lesson here?
I don't know. I don't know that I would have responded to this.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have volunteered my time for a large corporation. I'm one of those guys that thinks, no, I'm not doing that for you for free.
Okay.
You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, very highly valued. You make tons of money. You can pay people to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my thinking on it immediately. But maybe I give them a post office box or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good for Steve.
Yeah.
Got himself some nice swag.
Yeah.
We got another message here from Derek, who writes in with a question. He says, "Hello, Dave and Joe. I heard you on your fine show, Hacking Humans, and elsewhere that a concern with AI is its ability to draft convincing phishing emails. However, it's also been noted that phishing emails are often intentionally littered with spelling and grammar mistakes to limit their reach to those who may miss those telltale signs. Is there a tension between those two claims, or is the claim with AI that you'll be able to mass-produce spear phishing emails tailored to each individual? Given the wide availability before LLMs of service that can assist with spelling and grammar, those errors seem more like a feature than a bug. Curious about your thoughts on this."
So I have my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
My thoughts are it depends on the audience. I don't see a tension between these two statements. I think, spear phishing, there is a definite use case for LLMs and spear phishing,
right,
to make them really, really good. My concern with LLMs and spear phishing is that eventually somebody's going to train these models, in fact, it may already be happening. They're going to be training the models on the writing style of the person they're trying to impersonate. If your writing style has errors, maybe LLMs will eventually put those in there.
Right.
But the idea is, who are you trying to convince, right? Who are you trying to scam? If you're trying to scam somebody where the use case is, I need a well-written email, you're going to use an LLM. If you are trying to scam somebody with like a Nigerian print scam, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe you just use the old template you have that's ready to go.
Right.
And you're going to send out 1 million of those emails a day and answer the 5 or 6 that you get in response every day.
Yeah. I'll just mention real quick, LLMs are large language models, which are
Thank you.
the
I didn't clarify that.
generative AI systems that things like ChatGPT uses.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you here. I think the two have their own purposes, and I think the well-written letters are more likely to go toward spear phishing rather than broad, spray and pray phishing type of spammy sort of emails.
Right.
I think what you're saying about training on someone's writing style is interesting, and I'll just add to it that we know in a lot of these cases, the bad guys will get access to someone's email account and they'll camp out there for a while.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, if this is a business email compromise, they can feed tons of data into that model.
Right. So if they're camping out in your email account and they can download the last year's worth of email or for lots
more.
of folks, every email they've ever written, then they could absolutely load that into a model and it would probably be able to do a pretty good version of whoever's email account that they've broken into.
Yeah, you remember when you made that voice, the voice recording of you that was simulated?
Yeah.
It's like that, but only in writing.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, Derek, and thank you, Steve, for writing into us. Of course, we would love to hear from you. If you have something you'd like us to consider on the show, you can email us. It's hackinghumans@n2k.com. All right, Joe, let's jump into our stories here this week. I'm going to kick things off for us. And actually, my story comes from friend of the show, Graham Cluley.
Graham, I wonder how Graham is.
The only person who has co-hosted this show other than you.
Right. That's correct.
He filled in for you once when you were unavailable.
I was unavailable, yes.
Yeah, so Graham is certainly a friend of the show. And of course, I've appeared on Graham's show many times. You've been on Smashing Security as well, right?
Yes, twice.
Yeah. So Graham is co-host of the
Wouldn't
Smashing
it be nice to have
Security.
you back on again, Dave?
It's not up to me, Joe.
I know.
Graham is co-host of the Smashing Security podcast along with Carol Theriault, which if you have not checked out is another fine podcast to add to your list. But Graham has posted something here on his own blog, and it's titled, "Yikes, my sex video has been uploaded to YouPorn, apparently."
Hold on. Let me go look.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who among us hasn't already seen a sex video involving Graham Cluley? They're all over. But anyway, seriously. So this sort of tracks through an email that Graham got, and I think it's perfect for our show here. It claims to come from YouPorn, which of course is the online adult website that's, I suppose, if not famous, at least known for its user-contributed content.
Okay. I'm going to take your word for it, Dave.
Or so I've heard. So it says it comes from info@youporn.com. And the message from them starts off by saying, "Greetings. Our AI-powered tools have detected that you are featured in a sexually explicit content that was uploaded to our platform." And Graham points out here that the YouPorn logo and the message make it all look legit. And he says, it seems YouPorn's AI algorithm has detected me in a sex video that has been uploaded. He says, "Now I can be forgetful, but I'm reasonably sure that I have never knowingly appeared in a sexually explicit movie, yet alone uploaded it to YouPorn."
Right.
So
one would hope.
Yes. But what this email is claiming is that YouPorn has some sort of automated AI technology that automatically detects people.
Right.
And
and
Graham
somehow knows their email address.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's give Graham the benefit of the doubt. He's, he's a person of note. He's he's certainly famous in certain circles.
Yes.
So perhaps that could happen. Perhaps. They say, of course, we take the security and privacy of our users very seriously, and we use advanced technology to help detect and prevent the distribution of non-consensual intimate images and videos. Then goes on to say, the video will be published to our library within the next 7 days, and you will have an opportunity to review the content after the grace period has passed.
You know what that sounds like to me, Dave?
Go on.
An artificial time constraint.
Exactly what I was going to say. And Graham says that too. He says, ouch, so if I don't want the video published, I have to let them know within 7 days. All he has to do is click the link on the video to check out the video. But there's a problem.
Okay.
The link doesn't go anywhere. There's no link. In other words, there's a highlight, but the link has no destination.
No href.
So exactly. So it's a dud link, right?
Now
it's just there to appear to be there, but it doesn't actually go anywhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why, I wonder?
Well, because I suppose the expectation would be that this is going to take you to view the video.
Right.
But then you're like, oh, thank goodness, I'll be able to see what this is about. And then you click on it, it doesn't go anywhere. Now you're perhaps even more nervous.
Right.
That, I can't even see
This isn't
it.
working.
Right.
Okay.
What am I going to do? Right. Making you even more nervous. The letter goes on to say, if you did not approve the upload of this content, we kindly ask that you follow the instructions below to take immediate action. Our platform boasts an extensive network of websites and partners, which means that ensuring the security of our content is a top priority. To achieve this, all uploaded content is digitally fingerprinted using both the MediaWise service from Vobile and Safeguard, our own proprietary digital fingerprinting software. This helps to prevent unauthorized distribution of content on our platform. Sounds good?
Yeah. I wonder how accurate that is.
Well, let's keep reading.
Okay.
It says, the basic express removal, blocking, and protection against re-uploading of content on our network of 20 websites costs $199.
I see.
However, it gets better. Their plan
better than this?
Well, by better, I mean worse.
Right.
They say, our plan A includes everything in the basic removal option, plus digitally fingerprinting the content and automated removal and protection against re-uploading to our vast network of partner websites, over 300, for 1 year, all for $699.
So, Dave, they're saying that for $700, $700
Yeah.
they will keep your porn of you off the internet.
Right.
Okay. Your
Yes.
non-existent porn.
That's right.
What a great business model.
But there's more.
Okay.
It says, we recommend Plan B, which includes everything in Plan A, plus digital protection by MediaWise and Safeguard based on facial recognition data for 3 years. This ensures that any content with your biometrics will be blocked, and it costs $1,399.
$1,400. That's a bargain at twice the price, Dave. 3 times the time, twice the price.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
3 years. And Graham says 3 years isn't as good as perpetual,
Right.
but it's better than 1 year, and they seem to be guaranteeing that any content with his biometrics will be blocked.
Right.
So Graham says, where do I pay? It goes on and says, the payment process is automated through a Bitcoin gateway. And
here
the
we go.
Digital number you receive below is unique to your case and doesn't require any extra confirmation. To transfer the amount corresponding to your chosen option, copy and paste this identifier into your preferred cryptocurrency wallet. So,
This is a new take on the sextortion scam.
it is.
That's all this is.
It is. It is. But it's pretty elaborate, I think it's safe to say.
I would agree.
Yeah.
This is, first off, this is not how any of this works,
Right.
right? And now in many states, and I think in many countries in Europe, there are laws against involuntarily uploaded intimate images,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You'll hear it referred to as revenge porn.
Right.
That's illegal in a lot of places.
Yep.
If you don't explicitly consent to the upload of this stuff to any service, like this YouPorn site,
Yeah.
I guess if they thrive on user content, if you don't explicitly consent to that, then chances are the upload is illegal. There are also other requirements for the upload.
Yeah.
Like some kind of verification that everybody in the video is over the age of 18.
You'd think so, yes.
No, I know there's a legal requirement for that
Right.
in the United States.
Right.
And that there has to be somebody who's a custodian of records for that information.
Okay.
So you can't just upload a video that looks like somebody, the biometrics match, and Bob's your uncle. There you go. Everybody's looking at
Right.
Graham's sex tape. That's not going to happen.
Right.
There's so much wrong with this but most people don't know this, right? So they might be afraid of it. Oh my gosh, how did this happen?
Right.
There might be people out there that even have these videos of themselves available, and maybe they're thinking, oh, did my former partner upload this video?
Right. And with everybody talking about AI these days,
Right.
We've introduced this magical capability into the mix now. Where,
Right. And it does work and would be helpful in this kind of a situation.
Right.
But there is no AI model here. This is just all there is a Bitcoin wallet. I promise you that part is real.
Right. Perhaps you have a distinguishing tattoo or something that
Right.
the AI can recognize. All right. Well, we will have a link to this in the show notes. I think I am not doing justice to Graham's singular sense of humor that he expresses throughout this post here. So
Graham
do recommend you go check it out and read the original. So we'll
Graham
have a
is
link
a
to
very
that.
funny writer.
He is. He's very good. All right. That's my story, Joe. What do you have?
Dave, a couple of weeks ago, Proofpoint released their State of the Fish report for 2023.
Okay.
So I wanted to spend some time going over this report
All right.
because I love data, Dave.
I know you do, Joe.
Am I going to bore you with this?
No, it's not my boredom I'm worried about, Joe.
Goodbye, listeners. So we'll start off with the really interesting stuff. It was a commissioned survey of 7,500 working adults across 15 countries and 1,050 cybersecurity professionals
Okay.
across the same countries.
All right.
They paired this with the data that they've collected over the years because Proofpoint has phishing testing software.
Okay.
As well as the ability to report emails from the customers. So there's 135 million examples of Proofpoint sending out phish tests, and then 18 million examples of reported emails from users at the customer sites.
Okay.
So a lot of data.
Yeah.
Right? And they've combed through it, and there is some interesting information in here. And one of the first ones I wanted to talk about was user understanding and knowledge gaps. Dave, you and I, when we talk on this show, we often say things like malware, ransomware, phishing, vishing, and smishing.
Right.
And I've talked about how much I hate the terms smishing and vishing.
Yes.
But of all these terms, the only one that has consistently gained mind share among users is ransomware. That's the only one that has gone up consistently since 2019.
Okay.
All the other ones are kind of like the people who answered the survey couldn't identify, or they about the same all across.
Right.
Ransomware, 40% of people surveyed knew what that was.
Okay.
40%. Now, I'll tell you, Dave, that surprises me.
Which direction?
I would think that more people would know what ransomware was. It's in the news
It is.
all the time,
Yeah.
but only 40% of people know what it is.
Huh.
Phishing, 58% of people were able to identify. They were able to say what that is.
Huh.
And malware, 69% of people knew what malware was.
Nice.
Right. Smishing and vishing, down at around 29 and 30.
Okay.
They note that those are relatively new terms, smishing and vishing.
Okay.
So it's good that they don't know what, or it's at least understandable that people wouldn't know what those are.
Right.
I think there's other problems with that. I think that smishing and vishing are not really descriptive of what's going on. If you say phishing email, everybody knows what a phishing email is. If I say a smishing message, I think there's got to be a better scam text message, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. They're not great.
There's a new acronym I saw, TOAD, for phone calls. I can't remember, telephone something. It might even be in this report where I saw it. One of the big problems in our industry, Dave, is communicating with the regular users the problems that exist and why they need to care. And I think a lot of that stems from our jargon.
Yeah, I agree. I'll just quick aside here, since we're talking about things that get our hackles up. I got a pitch from someone last week who claimed to be a sci-fluencer.
I got something like that on my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you were a mutual connection.
I think we probably got the same one.
Yeah, well, I just ignored the connection.
No, I didn't connect, but I recoiled at the term.
Right.
But,
yeah, I saw that
yeah.
person. I'm done. Ignore this invite.
Okay. Glad it's not just me.
No, not just you.
All right. Back on track.
Yes. They have a section here called imposter syndrome. I think that Proofpoint could have done a little bit better with the titles that they picked, because imposter syndrome is something completely different than what this is. This is impersonation.
Okay.
21% of users don't know that an email can appear to come from anybody.
Okay.
Now, this ties in with what Graham was just talking about. 44% of people don't know that familiar branding doesn't make the email safe.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe people are familiar with the YouPorn branding,
Right.
But that branding was all over that email.
Right.
Right. And I don't know if that's the real logo, but it probably is.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to verify that right now because this is a Hopkins laptop and I don't want to have to answer questions later.
That's right. But we see this, lots of these have to do with shipping. So you'll see the FedEx logo or the UPS logo or the Postal Service logo.
Or the DHL logo, or it has to do with Microsoft impersonating Microsoft, and they put Microsoft's logo all over the place.
Right. Anybody can do that. Yeah.
Right. Anybody can do that, and apparently that's why they're doing it, is because it works. 63% don't know that the text and the link destination on a link in an email can be different. 63%. That's almost 2/3 of people don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That is shocking to me.
Okay. Have you met my father?
Hold on just a minute. Your father's not a working adult anymore, right?
No, he's not.
He's not one of those guys. One of the people.
No, I don't mean, I use, obviously I love my father to death, but,
Right.
but I use him as someone who's representative of, a whole generation who is not a digital native.
Yeah.
And so all of this stuff is news to him, and he really didn't have an opportunity to learn this stuff in the same way that you or I did, and certainly our children below us probably have an even better grasp of all this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will say that I'm actually pretty pleased with the way my parents have grasped a lot of the tech that's coming on.
That's good.
And I don't know why they're outliers like that. My wife's parents, not so much.
Yeah.
But my mom and my dad have done pretty well identifying things that are scams. Maybe it's because they're just generally better at identifying things that might be scams.
Yeah.
They both, by education, they're both financial people.
Okay.
So maybe that contributes to it. Like
Could be. Yeah,
bookkeeping and accounting, those kind of things are,
Yeah.
all over. There's scams all over the place.
Yeah, there's a culture of oversight and auditing and just a general, carefulness.
Right. Now, in the habits, they have a segment here called Blurred Lines.
Okay.
78% of people use work devices for personal activities. I think that means that 22% of the people lied. No, I don't do that. I think you do.
So you're talking about like checking Facebook
Yeah.
or on your work machine.
Right.
Sure. Okay.
72% of people admit that they use personal devices as work devices.
Yeah.
I think that's probably also artificially low. Are you telling me that you don't have your work email on your phone? I mean,
Right.
maybe actually, that one I'm more willing to accept. I do a lot of work. I have my phone that has my Hopkins email on it. Sometimes when I'm preparing for this show, I'll do that on my home computer. I will log into my Hopkins account on my home computer sometimes. I don't install Hopkins software on my home computer, but I still use my home computer for work stuff.
Yeah.
And this one I find shocking. 48% of people said that they let family and friends use their work devices. Dave, I don't let family and friends use my personal devices. I think this is I think I'm the outlier here, Dave. The rule at home is don't touch my computer. Just don't touch it.
Right.
There's been a family computer, and now shortly after that, when computers decreased in cost and were readily available, everybody got their own computer.
Yeah.
And that way, there's no cross-contamination. One person's bad behavior doesn't necessarily impact everybody else.
Right.
But, I've never let my kids play with my work computer at all.
No.
But they've never needed to because
Yeah.
they've had their own computer.
No, I think in the era of mobile devices,
Right.
I'm having trouble imagining good reasons to let your family access a work computer.
Here's some password habits. 28% of people say they reuse passwords for multiple work-related accounts, which is terrible.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
Right. 18% said they use a password manager, and that's for work stuff, while 17% said they use it for personal stuff.
Okay.
I've migrated to KeePass XC,
okay.
and I keep two separate databases, one for work and one for home. And I found that to be a really good way to divide stuff. And it doesn't take long to migrate. I mean, every now and then I'm going to have to go back to Password Safe, open up that thing, and move a password over. But I haven't had to do that in a couple of weeks. When it comes to rotating passwords, only 16% of people said they rotate somewhere between 1 and 4 passwords. And this means changing your passwords with some regularity, I guess.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, I remember years ago, before I knew better and before before password managers really were a thing.
Right.
I remember, my wife and I would have, probably the best way to describe it is different tiers of passwords.
Yes.
Like you had the complex one that you used for the important stuff, and then you had throwaway ones that you reused for accounts that you didn't really think where security wasn't as important.
Right.
And
to some extent, that's a good risk assessment for the time.
Right.
But now you need to use you have password managers now,
Correct.
First off. So that solves most of the problem.
Yeah.
And it really makes it really easy to change these passwords and to create very hard to guess passwords.
And it badgers you if you're reusing a password.
Right. It badgers you if you're reusing it.
Right.
It will, some of them will integrate with Troy Hunt's database and say, hey, this password's already been breached. Let's change it.
Right.
When it comes to rotating more than 4 passwords, the numbers are the same if you go with 5 to 10 or more than 10. So 6% of people say they do that for both of those. Now, I don't know if that means that 6% only rotate. I guess that means 6% only rotate somewhere between 5 and 10 passwords. And some people rotate more than 10 passwords, 6% of people. I rotate more than 10 passwords, but I do not rotate all of them. There are some I just don't rotate. The passwords are already long and complex. The account is not that important to me. And if it's available, it's protected with some kind of multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
So I've done the risk assessment. If I lose access to that account, I'm not going to be impacted that much.
Okay.
This is an interesting report. I mean, I think I'm going in here too much into the data. I would encourage everybody here it is, TOADS, which is telephone-oriented attack delivery.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Right.
Because what we really need is another acronym.
Right.
Joe.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
TOADS.
TOADS.
This is an interesting report. It's a really good report, and I think it's well done and well written. I have my my issues with it in terms of but they're all just my issues. It's not any professional thing I have.
Okay.
This is what irritates Joe.
Yeah.
But it's a good report. I mean, check it out. You have to give them some information, but it's worth the read.
All right. Well, we will have a link to that in the show notes. All right. It is time to move on to our catch of the day.
Dave, our catch of the day comes from my boss, Dr. Tony DeBurra. Somebody sent this message to him and the president of our university, President Daniels.
All right.
Now, mind you, the email came from a a Gmail address, but it wasn't looking like it was spoofed. I've redacted the name and the name of the company.
Okay.
But because I think this might actually be something legitimate, I don't know. Let's read, shall we?
Okay, it goes like this. Dear President, I have reviewed thousands of schools' forensic internet data. I'm contacting you because I have found illicit material that is associated with your university. Your website has 1 associated websites linked to yours referring domains that contain pornographic material and 12 links to your website, backlinks associated with porn. I will include photos of the links and Excel spreadsheets detailing this relationship to your website. I'd like to explain more about how these things can become associated with your website. Your site is linked to other websites through hyperlinks that act as shortcuts to get to related topics. A backlink is like a recommendation on the internet. It's a link from one website to another, guiding people to more information on a related topic. Other than the links related to porn, there are some other backlinks. Google French redirects, advertisement de redirection, and some interesting subdomain backlinks from other universities that could indicate that someone has included the university on a PBN, private blog network, that could impact the internet more than the Cambridge Analytica scandal. I hope that the university takes a serious look into this, and please let me know if I can be of any further help.
So they sent along a bunch of Excel file or spreadsheets that were Google Docs. I didn't click on any of them. Tony didn't click on any of them. We had Chris Venghaus, our system engineer, look at it. He didn't click on any of them. We actually discussed this.
Okay.
Could this be real? And the point is, anybody can put a link on the internet that points to jhu.edu.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
Somebody has done that on a porn site.
Okay.
And that might be the case.
Allegedly. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about that.
No.
It's what I mean. I don't know what the business model is here for this guy. What he's trying to do, aside from maybe do some reputation management. But anybody, and I think everybody on the internet knows that those kind of things can be added anywhere.
Right.
The one thing that is interesting in here is I had to look this up. There's a technique called a private blog network. He calls it a PBN, where you pump a link into this PBN. It's just a bunch of blogs that essentially link to other sites.
Right.
The hope is that Google will index these sites and that you can have your site rise in the search rankings. It's part of SEO, search engine optimization.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, this is a very old school technique.
Right.
I remember this from probably 20 years ago.
Right, yeah.
And this whole email strikes me as being 20 years old,
Right.
right? Like explaining like what is a hyperlink? You know, those sorts of things.
I have another complaint about this, and the terminology is correct, but backlink is just a URL that points outside of the current website, right?
Okay.
I don't know why they're called backlinks. That doesn't seem like a good name.
All right. I don't know either.
But no, I looked it up. That is an actual term.
Okay.
You know, I hadn't heard it before. I'd always just refer to them as links. You know, the links can be
It
internally.
makes me hungry, you know, like I'm going to cook up some eggs and some delicious backlink sausage, right?
Dave, I think I have my new harebrained business idea.
That's right.
Dave and Joe's backlink sausages.
Backlink sausages. Yeah, nothing but the best.
That's right.
All right. Well, I don't know what to make of this. Like you said, it could be real, or the offer could be real.
Right.
And even if it is, the service seems odd.
Yeah.
But even if it is real, it's written in such a way that makes me question it.
Yeah.
And makes you all not want to follow up with this person.
Right. There's one bit of hyperbole in here. When he compares PBNs, he says they could impact the internet more than the Cambridge Analytica scandal.
Yeah.
That's not anything related to
No.
I mean, those two things are not the same thing.
Right.
And
Right.
and they're
It's like saying this will be worse than Watergate.
right.
Okay.
Maybe that's what he's doing is that
Maybe, yeah.
PBNs are going to be worse than Watergate. They're
Just-
not going to be worse than Watergate
No, just
or
it's
Cambridge
just
Analytica.
cranking up the pressure.
Right. Yeah, the rhetoric and definitely.
Right.
Anyway.
All right. Well, thanks to Joe's boss, Tony, for sending this over. We do appreciate it. And we hope that good President Daniels at Hopkins did not follow up with
No,
this
he did
person.
not.
I'm sure he did not.
He
has plenty of people.
Yeah, somebody else reads his email
guiding
for
him what to do. Right.
That's the kind of...
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, again, we would love to hear from you. If there's something you'd like us to consider, you can email us. It's hackinghumans@n2k.com.
Send those catches in.
We were talking about mitigating cyber threats to your organization before your users even see them. The new Phish ER Plus from KnowBe4 was developed to help you supercharge your organization's email security defenses. How? You get a unique crowdsourcing advantage. More than 10 million highly trained KnowBe4 end users from across the globe catch and report malicious email that makes it through all the filters. KnowBe4's Threat Lab then validates it with AI and with human researchers. Phish ER Plus blocks phishing threads other tools have missed and proactively removes them from your users' inboxes. Not quite time travel, but we think you'll agree it's a vital capability in any InfoSec professional's arsenal. Visit knowbe4.com/products/PhishER-plus to learn more. That's knowbe4.com/products/PhishER-plus. And we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show. Joe, I recently had the pleasure of speaking with Sam Crowther. He is founder and CEO of a security company called Casada. And he and his colleagues there have been doing some interesting work looking at credentials from automotive accounts, so things associated with your car that are being sold online. Here's my conversation with Sam Crowther.
Our threat research team found evidence that some criminal syndicates had been launching credential stuffing attacks against large, particularly US-based auto manufacturers, and selling the compromised accounts, which contained obviously the VIN numbers, the makes and models of the vehicles, the PII of the owners within some of their Telegram communities, and it was at a scale that was quite alarming to go from zero to where they landed. So it raised just massive red flags on our side, and we figured this is absolutely something we need to talk more about.
Well, what kind of scale are we talking about here? How many stolen accounts did you all track?
So the initial two waves, there was about 15,000 US accounts for these cars that came up for sale.
Well, let's talk about the information that was taken here and why it matters for folks. I mean, I think people are kind of used to getting reports that some of their information has been compromised, their name, their address, maybe something like that. But I think it's fair to say most of us don't think about things like the VINs of our cars.
I completely agree, right? And like when you buy a car from a manufacturer, particularly modern ones, and you sign up for the account to manage your servicing or even, manage the vehicle remotely, you never really think too much about what's going into it and the sort of access and information that it has.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that folks can do with a VIN here. What are the risks?
Something known as car cloning, where criminals can take stolen VIN numbers and use it to create replica tags so that, you may get pulled over when you're driving your car in, Maryland, right? And the police are like, hey, we've got a warrant for this or whatever it is when you get pulled over. And it's actually because someone else who committed a crime who's duped your car's information has done it, somewhere else in the state, right? Which is really, really problematic. There's also the potential for basically the duplication of ownership papers. So someone could own your car from the government's eyes. It's pretty concerning. And when you couple that with the information around where the individuals live, how to contact them, it can start to start to become, a really scary form of identity fraud.
How so? How would folks use this information specifically?
You can leverage all the, contact and VIN information. It's also possible to take out loans, for example, against the car, additional, cash out, which I guess is the ultimate goal for almost any, identity theft, right? Is money from the banks that's tied to someone else. What's really interesting though on the actual seller's side is how popular and how cheap seemingly these accounts were, right? Normally to get your hands on enough information to properly commit identity fraud, it's going to cost you $500 to $1,000. Whereas you look at some of these automotive accounts and you can pay as little as $2 and you basically have all the information you need to get started.
Huh. Any insights on why they were going so cheaply?
My guess is that the sellers didn't realize the true value of them. And the folk that launch these attacks typically stick to retail. So taking over retail accounts with safe credit cards where the value is only a few dollars an account. And so I think this is new territory for them, and they have not realized actually they're sitting on something far more valuable than a traditional retailer's online account.
One of the things that you all pointed out in your report here was that a lot of these manufacturers have mobile apps for the vehicles now, and then they're linked together. And by having this information, the bad guys can take advantage of some of the functionality of those mobile apps.
Yeah, it's a pretty scary thought, isn't it? The fact that all someone really needs is your username and password and then your VIN, and they can see things like car location, There's innocuous things like air conditioning, but the ability to lock, unlock, remote start. You're starting to, again, get into something that, folk have on the security side have sort of, shouted from the mountaintops could happen, where someone takes over your car. It actually just, is one step closer to being very real.
What are your recommendations for folks to protect themselves against this sort of thing?
So look, the number one would be, and I know it's said over and over again, but unique passwords, particularly on systems like this. I know it's probably not something many of us think about being overly sensitive, but the reality is it's actually quite important for us to protect it. So making sure that, access to that account is, 2FA where it can be, it's a strong password. And then, if you can disable certain functionality or you can avoid having some of these accounts entirely, maybe if it's not going to, impede your user experience, it may be best to do so, right? In a lot of cases, most people don't need these accounts. Most of the cars attached to these were old from what we could see, and there was no app to control them remotely for these older models. So there was really no big value add, yet they'd sort of been, driven to sign up by the manufacturer.
It's a really interesting point you bring up. My wife happens to be in the market for a car, and she hasn't purchased a car in, probably about a decade or so. And she's finding it frustrating that she can't get away from a lot of these electronic enhancements that she's not really that interested in.
They're there by default, and you can't do much about it, can you?
No. And as you say, it does open up kind of a whole new attack surface that we hadn't really considered before. People who listen to this show hear me say over and over again that, my favorite iPhone accessory is my car. And I think, we're really getting to that point.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree.
Is there any responsibility from the car manufacturers here? I mean, have they chimed in on any of their attempts to secure this kind of thing?
A huge responsibility, right? This is ultimately their problem. If this happened in any other industry where the information was as sensitive, there would be outrage. Imagine if, the MyChart accounts you have for your medical information had the same problem. The impact would be pretty material. And functionally, this is very sensitive PII. So we've reached out and tried to notify the manufacturers. One has engaged. The others have remained silent. The one that's engaged has been really good and proactive about actually, properly digging in and looking at what went wrong and how to address it, which is great to see.
Yeah. Where do you suppose we're headed here? I mean, could you see regulations coming that could help tie these sorts of things down better?
General security, rules and regulations around liability is something that will help here, right? The world is so fast-paced, and particularly if you take the case of auto manufacturers who've been ripped out of the Stone Age very, very quickly. There's just so many different unique cases and data sets and data types to deal with. But, laws around, hey, what is acceptable for an organization to lose when it comes to customer data, right? How many accounts can be compromised before there are some, whether it's like criminal or other sorts of charges brought against the company. That's really where this needs to go. And if you look at other countries, they're starting to move there, right? Like actually, my home country of Australia has recently implemented some new laws around liability if organizations are shown to be negligent. And the penalties are really severe, right? Similar to what you'd see in the European Union. And I really think that's the best way to do it, because right now the equation these companies make is, what's the chance we get caught? How much is it going to cost us if we get caught? We're fine to accept that risk without actually really considering what the impact to their customers is.
Yeah. You'd hope that we wouldn't have to get to the point where there was, some kind of loss of life or bodily injury for folks to sit up and pay attention to this.
We do not want to get to that. That is not a great outcome.
Joe, what do you think?
I haven't heard this one before.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems... Well, first off, the attack is something that just starts with a credential stuffing attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're getting in and monetizing it by selling these things for a couple bucks a piece.
Right.
I put credential stuffing attacks into the social engineering category. Some people don't do that. I do, because they're exploiting a human habit. And these attacks don't actively attack people, but passively attack people. Through the things they've already done that, like reusing passwords. And this is a habit that people have, just like we saw in my story. A lot of people are reusing passwords. 28% say they use multiple passwords at work that are the same.
Right.
This is why we say use a password manager, because that protects you from this kind of attack.
Yeah.
They're selling the access and the information, 15,000 accounts that have been breached. That's interesting. I'll bet that these guys amassed a bunch of different email and password pairs and then just started stuffing the big three auto manufacturers in the US, and that's how they got it.
Could be.
They have access to this and they say, why don't we try this? And okay. So then the issue comes up of what can these bad guys do with it? And Sam talks about car cloning. And the funny thing is, once he said that you get access to your VIN number, I shouldn't say VIN number, because the last N is number.
If you're on your way to the junkyard, make sure you stop by the ATM machine.
Right. But he talks about car cloning.
Yeah.
So this goes back to the olden days of car thieving, right? You would buy a car that was a model that you wanted, right? And it would be junked. Just in a wreck. Never going to drive this car again. But you buy it and you get a title. Then you would go and steal a car of the same model. And then they were people that I remember watching this on 2020. There were people that would cut the VIN numbers out and weld them back into the stolen car, and bam, you've got a new car.
Huh.
So they change all the VIN numbers on the stolen car to match that of the destroyed car.
Right.
Now you have a new car with a clean title.
I see.
And everything's good to go. Now, that can't be done so much because now we have these things like junk titles and salvage titles and something called, I can't remember, but it says that you have to destroy the car.
Oh, okay.
So somebody has to destroy the car, and a junk title and a certificate of destruction have to be, those cars can never be on the road again.
Right.
So you can't do that anymore, but you sure can take a perfectly good car and clone that by putting another VIN on there,
yeah,
and then go get a nice clean title for it. And then imagine when somebody's run a bunch of red light cameras in another state, and doesn't pay them because they know you're going to be getting the bill for it. It's a form of identity theft.
Yeah.
Another weird modern problem here is that now maybe you can actually go ahead and install the app on your phone if you're the bad guy, and because you have access to the user's account, have access to their car.
It's possible. I
don't know if that's, I don't know what these, I don't have a modern enough car, Dave. My car is from 2012.
But yeah, like I said, my wife is in the market right now, and she's
Right.
a little frustrated by the forced sophistication of these cars. It's
Yeah.
hard, it's hard to find one that's.
I'm not looking forward to buying my next car.
Yeah.
And the same problem is with TVs. You can't get a TV that isn't a smart TV anymore.
Right.
And refrigerators. Why? Why can't I get actually, you can still buy dumb refrigerators, and that's the best kind. You don't want to be dumber than your refrigerator, Dave.
No.
You want the refrigerator to be one of the dumber things in the house.
Yes.
The refrigerator and the dog have to be at least as smart. Maybe Sam notified the manufacturers and heard back from one of them.
Yeah.
So 33%. That is actually a pretty good ratio.
Okay.
That one of these companies is taking this seriously. I would like to know which company it is. Sam didn't mention that, probably because he agreed to non-disclosure stuff,
Right.
Which I understand. So how do you protect yourself against this? Well, number one, use multi-factor authentication. I don't know that these auto manufacturers are going to offer that. So in lieu of that, a password manager will help you create a strong and unique password that makes it almost impossible to fall victim to a brute force attack. I'm not going to say it's impossible. There is a chance that it will happen, but it's a very, 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 very small chance. Auto manufacturers need to make multi-factor authentication required for their sites. If you're going to have this kind of PII that's accessible, you have to take it upon yourselves to protect the user by making it so that they have to use multi-factor authentication at some level. Just stop the automated attacks like this, where 15,000 of your records get sold online.
Oh, and you've already got you've got a key. The car has a key.
Right.
So make the key MFA, right? The key has electronics in it.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good idea.
Right? Just
Dave, you should be patenting that idea, not giving it away for free.
Well, there you go.
Also, I think manufacturers need to let us minimize our attack surface. What if I don't want my car to have a Wi-Fi hotspot? I just don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be available. I don't want that to be a thing. I don't even want there to be a SIM card in my car that is calling out and checking if it can be used for Wi-Fi. I don't want that, because that means it's probably one of those SIM cards that is lifelong and just sends data across it, like is in those Amazon Kindles. When you buy an Amazon Kindle, there's like a 3G or a 4G SIM card in there that just runs forever. It's low cost because the data usage is so low on those things.
Right.
I don't want that in my car. Right. I just don't.
Right.
I don't want that.
I'm picturing you. Joe, I love you, Joe. I'm picturing you drive.
I'm going to cover my car in tinfoil.
Well, I was just going to say, I was picturing you driving around in a car that had some kind of Faraday cage welded on the entire perimeter of it. And, when you wanted to do something, you have a handheld antenna that you hold out of the window, if you need to get some data or tune into a radio station or something. And you're just, and the neighbors are all looking at you through their blinds saying, oh, what has Joe done this time?
Yes, that happens a lot. The neighbors do. I see them peeking out going, oh, what's he up to now?
Right. Exactly.
Why does he have that big antenna mast out in the front yard?
Yep.
So there is something that here that made me a little bit nervous with my current car. When I bought it, I started noticing that if I drove by the dealership where I bought it, within a day I'd get an email letting me know that my that it was time for an oil change or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And I'm but that was 2012 that car was made.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
But I'm wondering if there's some kind of just constant beacon emitting stuff, and whenever it drives by a dealership it's a Toyota product. Whenever it drives by a Toyota dealership with this receiver in it, does it just upload the data, or does it just receive the data?
That's interesting. I mean, I suppose, You do see, you'll sometimes see devices on the side of the highway that have some sort of antenna array.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding, like going way back, they used to have ones that would be able to detect what radio station you were listening to as you drove by.
Really?
Yeah. It was able to like sense some kind of resonance out of your, the tuner.
Right.
And would able to gather that information anonymously back then. So I suppose it's plausible, but it seems unlikely, especially for a car that goes back that far.
Yeah,
but
it's
you
11
never know.
years ago now.
You never know. Well, a little paranoia never hurt anybody.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe I should get one of my software-defined radios out and start the car up and see what happens.
Right. Just go around. Yeah. Go around and see if it's beaconing anything. I wonder what would happen. Now I'm thinking of how could you test this? If you drove by the dealership, but you pulled the fuse on your car's head unit on the radio business in the car, would that do anything? Or is it, who knows, could be a passive thing. I don't know. Look, if anybody knows anything about this,
let us know. Dave and I are going down the rabbit hole of paranoia that we probably shouldn't be going down.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, that was it. That was all I had. I just wanted to, the last thing I was going into was my story about my car.
Okay.
That wasn't even in the script. We have digressed, but all the way at the end of the show.
All right. Well, our thanks again to Sam Crowther. He is the founder and CEO of security firm Casada, and we appreciate him taking the time for us. That is our show. We want to thank all of you for listening. A quick reminder that N2K Strategic Workforce Intelligence optimizes the value of your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your team while making your team smarter. Learn more at n2k.com. Our thanks to the Johns Hopkins University Information Security Institute for their participation. You can learn more at isi.jhu.edu. Our senior producer is Jennifer Eiben. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie. I'm Dave Bittner.
And I'm Joe Kerrigan.
Thanks for listening.